Welcome to Fair Use Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Terrell Humphrey, and we produce over 893 podcast episodes. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why making today count. And this is so important to understand that every day you have to understand how to make it count. In addition to that, work in your favor. Nonetheless, this video, this episode, this live stream is going to cover the importance of making today count. So if you're new to this channel, bring out your pen, bring out your notebook. If you're driving, just know, refer back to the episode because we're going to talk deep around making today count. So let's go ahead and get into it. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm your host, Terrell Humphrey, and welcome to another episode of the Fair Use Knowledge Podcast. And so this topic is so critical because there's so many different things that the day can be misled from. Like it's not misled, but there's so many things that can be missed. So many opportunities, so many wins, so many recognitions. So when I started to recognize that every day is important, I have to make every day count. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Hold on. Let me make sure I got the right one. There we go. All right, first point number one. Collect a win. Make today count. You have to collect small wins. There we go. Collect small wins. That's not wins. Collect small wins. So when you collect small wins, you are literally testing, trying, and taking a risk for yourself. When I started my business half a decade ago, I didn't even know it was called a business. I didn't even know it was called a podcast production. I didn't even know it was called anything. I just started. I started with my phone. At the time, I had 2 cameras instead of 3 cameras on my phone. And I had the button. And I had the home button. I had an iPhone 7. And this right here, when I made my first video, that was a win. It was a win because I was getting uncomfortable. It was a win because I was putting myself out there. It was a win because I was trying something new. As I tried something new, I started to understand that I'm doing something different. So first thing first, when I was serving the Marine Corps, sending prayers to those who are in the current war right now and let you know that we are sending prayers your way as well. So when I started, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to do something. As I started to do something, I started to learn what I was doing. As I started to learn what I was doing, the wins start to build. It's kind of like a building block, right? You got block number 1. This is the introduction. This is introduction. And then you have block number 2 is off center to the left right here. And this right here is a form of figuring it out. This right here is a continuation. This one right here fills in the gap. And what does that mean? What's going on, Jessica? Appreciate you for joining in. What does that mean? It fills the gap. When you are figuring out what you are doing, you are learning how to collect small wins. Everyone has a win, yet the win that they are accomplishing, they're not paying attention to. And when I start to recognize, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm doing something different. I'm doing something like that's impactful. As I start to recognize the impact, the work came behind the podcast, helped me build a brand that will allow me to connect with other people. And I tell you this, connecting is is a challenge nowadays because you got social media, you got so many different platforms, so many different distractions, and business itself is like, man, you have to figure out where to meet your customers at. As I start to learn, my ideal customers were multifamily investors. I think that's the language. I think that's the ideal customer right now. It's understanding what challenges they face when it comes to brand development. And I only figuring that out as I start to speak with them. Okay. Hold on. Why am I saying that? When you start to collect small wins, you are receiving feedbacks. The feedback that you are receiving is helping you collect more wins, collect more information, collect more data. In business, the more data you have, the more successful you become. The more data you have, the more wins you are collected. The more data you have, the better business that you understand. It's not the fact that the data is all over the place. It's more so that the wins that you're collecting, you're figuring it out. The building blocks. The example that I use with the building blocks is so critical because you have to identify what's considered a win. In other words, you have to identify what your business is. Identify your business. You see, we are a podcast production business and we help multifamily investors build their brand through podcasting. And now that I'm able to say that, I'm able to communicate that, I just have to go and communicate with my ideal customers. Reason why this is different than what I've completed in the past is because I was still trying to figure out what business I was in. Because I just didn't know what business I was in. Nonetheless, I thought it was the podcast that I was selling. It wasn't the skill. It wasn't the, like, you come onto the platform and learn and share your story. Like, I should sell that. But in reality, I heard this saying from one of the mentors that I have that was like, always think about scale. Podcasting, like having your interviews are great, but if you're constantly charging for people to come onto your platform, you got to think about it. You got to have a lot of people come onto your platform in order for you to really have a business. They said that, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind because making today count came from the information that I received from other people, doing the work and gaining the experience. As I start to gain the experience, I started to learn what I was doing. When you make the day count, as you make the day count, what's going on, as you make the day count, you are literally learning how to be better. In business, every day is a battle because there's some things that you have to figure out. For a podcast production business, like, what exactly do? We help multifamily investors build their brand through podcasting. Okay, what does that look like? That means we come to your location. All you have to do is sit down, record, and we take care of the rest. Your brand is being built because your brand is constantly being seen. It's your authority, it's your information, it's your experience that makes a difference. I didn't recognize that you had to gain the experience in a specific industry to become the authority. I thought it was the books. I thought it was the information. I thought it was like all these different things. But in reality, when you collect small wins, you are building your confidence. When you collect small wins, you are developing a skill. When you collect small wins, you are learning what you are doing. Hold on. Let me get into it right quick. Hold on. As you learn what you are doing based off you trying, you have to learn how to take risks from everything that you are doing. You see, there's a terminology, and it's called risk tolerance. Risk tolerance. TRLANCE, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to look this definition up just so I can have the correct words. Hold on. Let me come to it. I'm going to go to Google right now. Risk tolerance. Definition. Let's just see if the definition is not simple. Okay, risk tolerance is the degree of uncertainty, volatility, or potential loss an investor or organization is willing to accept when pursuing financial goals. As a matter of fact, let's just keep it even more simple, okay? Let's keep it even more simple. High risk tolerance is comfortable with large, in short, it is how much red you can see in your portfolio without panicking and selling. So you got high risk and you got low risk. High risk is comfortable with large temporary drops in value, potential long-term growth. Low risk is prefer stability and security over growth. aiming to avoid losses. So you have to, what I started to recognize is that I was like, man, I got a high risk tolerance because I'm willing to try everything to make it work. I'm willing to try anything to make it work. I'm willing to try every single day in order for this podcast production business to become a profitable business. I'm willing to try to do the work. As I try to do the work, I'm learning, I'm developing, I'm getting more educated. I'm applying the lessons. As I apply the lessons, things start to happen. What's happening is that I start to understand what I'm doing. When you identify your risk tolerance, you're identifying the amount of effort that you're willing to put into your dreams. So hold on. Let me come back to the screen. So risk tolerance is identifying how much you're going to try. In simplest terms, you will try. If what is called high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward, that means if you're taking no risk, you're having no rewards. You're having no success. You're collecting no wins. When you make today count, you're recognizing that the risk that you're taking will benefit for your future. Okay, hold on. So I'm in school for business management, and prior to me going to school, I literally saw a sheet that I was in that I had to fill out, and it said that I started school something 2023. I was like, wait, I thought I started in 2024. I went to school. I started going to school at the beginning of 2024, and I was doing integrated public relations. Again, I started back going to school. Then I transferred schools, and when I started to go to the school and learn about business, it gave me a different perspective. It gave me the terminology behind everything that I was doing. And as I start to gain the terminology of the basic understanding, is like, oh, wait, this is what I've been doing. There's a thing from when you put yourself out there, you are taking the risk. You are taking the risk for yourself. As you take the risk for yourself, you're learning what you're doing. There's a terminology for that. Risk tolerance is actually identifying how much effort you're willing to put into your work, willing to put into the unknown, willing to put into the uncertainty. And so when I start to really do the work and really produce podcast episodes, edit podcast episodes, publish podcast episodes, get shorts for podcast episodes, this whole time I was learning how to build a brand, yet I didn't know it was called building a brand. You see, the difference between that is recognizing that the risk that you're taking will eventually make sense. It's not the fact that I didn't know it. I just didn't know how to work with it. I didn't know how to work with it because working with it was confusing to me. In my business management school, they didn't say anything about identifying your risk tolerance. They explained it. It was up to me to recognize what my risk tolerance was. How much risk am I willing to take in order for me to make this work? Well, me, honestly, I'm willing to take any amounts of risk to make this work. Why? Because it only works if I take enough risk. Hold on. Let me come back to the screen. Let me write this down. It only works. Hold on. It only works when you take risk. I did a podcast a couple of months ago with my guy from Little Arkansas, Dre. Shout out to Dre. I did a podcast with him, and it was a phenomenal episode. And I literally remember writing this: without no risk, there is no reward. And when I said that, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But then when I go to school to learn the importance, to learn the definition, to learn the terminology behind taking risks, it explains that you have to understand what you're willing to sacrifice. You have to understand what you're willing to do. You have to understand what you are willing to commit to. You see, I'm willing to sacrifice time. If I can make this happen and eventually make this thing that I'm trying to do, the podcast production business, if I can have a business around that that's profitable, in the future, I'll be able to travel. In the future, I'll be able to go on carnivals. In the future, I'll be able to explore the world. But for now, there has to be sacrifices. There has to be something that I'm not putting my time and effort into because all my energy is going towards one particular thing. Since I'm doing that, the change, the shift, the growth only comes from me understanding what I'm doing. As I start to understand what I'm doing, how I do it starts to make a difference because I'm preparing for my future. Risk tolerance is preparing for your future. How much effort do you want to put in today so you're preparing for your future? If you're not taking risks today, your future is going to be the same. If you're not taking risks today, you won't see the rewards. If you're not taking risks today, you won't see the success because no wins will be collected because you're not taking risks. I started to learn risk was me identifying what am I willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to sacrifice the travel. I literally remember a couple years ago when some of my buddies that was traveling, that was like, man, come with us. Come travel with us. Come explore the world. And I proceeded to say, not right now. The world don't need to be explored. You see, I need to learn what I'm doing. I need to put time, effort, and energy to make this thing work. Because when it's working, then and only then I'll be able to be more comfortable traveling the world. You see, there's a sacrifice that people are not willing to make. I'm willing to make the sacrifice, and the sacrifice that I'm willing to make, I'm able to grow, I'm able to get more educated, and I'm able to learn how to create the wins that I'm looking to accomplish. Collecting small wins only come from you. Hold on, what was it? Hold on. Making today count. Making today count is so important because you never get today back. You never get today back, and you have to be okay with taking the risk, taking the chance, taking the opportunity to make your future better. Okay, hold on. I shared this story a while ago, but the story is really important. Before I joined the Marine Corps, I was working at Walmart, and when I was working at Walmart, it was 4:00 in the morning. It wasn't a lot of people in the store. It wasn't a lot of people. It's 4:00 in the morning, so there won't be a lot of people there. It was me, a couple workers. I come out to the floor, and I looked around, and I was like, man, I don't see my life for the next 20 years here. Not that Walmart is bad. Walmart is a great organization. I learned a lot working there. But if I wanted to change my life, I had to change my environment. If I wanted to change my life, I had to change what I was doing. If I wanted to change for my future, my present today I had to make today count. And when I made that day count, I started to communicate about the next step. You see, hold on. Let me come back to the screen. See, the next step consists of taking a chance. When you take a chance, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where it's going to happen from, and you don't know how it's going to happen. When you see that, you are growing. Yet when you recognize the chances you're taking, you're preparing for your future. Everybody has a win until you recognize the win that counts. Hold on. That's the next point we're going to talk about, is that you have to create. Hold on, not even create. Next point is challenge yourself. And when you challenge yourself, you have to be okay with not knowing everything. I'm on my 90-day challenge to grow a podcast production business, and every challenge taught me something different. It's not the fact that I was literally failing on purpose. It was just that I didn't understand what I was doing, how to do it, and how to do it more consistently. That taught me something, that just because I don't know what I'm doing doesn't mean I should not do it. Hold on. Just because I don't know what I'm doing doesn't mean I should not challenge myself. When you challenge yourself, you are pushing yourself. When you're pushing yourself, you're learning. When you learn it, you are growing. Growth doesn't happen if you're not pushing yourself. Growth doesn't happen if you're not underneath pressure. Growth doesn't happen if you don't know what you're doing. When you challenge yourself, you are trying to figure it out. I literally remember going to different parts and different, not even different parts, trying something new whereas it was real estate wholesaling, what is it called? Surplus funds, cooking videos, podcasts, interviews. Like, there's so many different things where I'm challenging myself because I want to be better at something. The thing that I became good at was podcasting because I stuck with it. And over time, as I stick with it, I get a lot more better. You see, when you challenge yourself, you're not going to be as good as everyone else the first day. But what if you keep doing it? What if you develop a routine? Hold on. What if you develop a routine around everything that you're doing, and everything that you're doing is based off of you putting effort towards it? Challenging yourself is helping you learn what you are doing. As you learn what you are doing, you are developing a skill. In business, when you develop a skill, check this out. You are solving a problem. Hold on. Let me come back to the screen right quick, because that was deep. When you develop a skill, you are solving a problem. The problem that you're solving is the skill that you develop, because a lot of people don't have the skill that you just learned. Check this out. I'm thinking everybody know what I know. I get surprised when people don't know everything that I do know. And it blows my mind, like, wait, hold on, you don't know that? I thought you knew that. I thought you knew what I was speaking about. It wasn't the fact that people didn't understand. It was more so I didn't recognize what I didn't know. They didn't know because everyone's on different paths. Everyone's learning different things. And when I saw that, the skill that I've developed through podcast production, I can literally help multifamily investors do the same exact thing. Now that I have steps to follow, I have a system to follow. Now that I have a system to follow, I have a blueprint to follow. Now that I have a blueprint to follow, I can literally help people the same exact way I help myself. In business, when you help others with the thing that you have solved, the skill that you have developed, the energy that you have put into it, you're no longer trying to figure it out. You're solving a problem that a lot of people have because you had the same problem. You had the same problem, and this problem that you're solving for everybody else. Hold on. See, I done dropped my pen. See, I done got too excited. You see, when you make today count, you have to be willing to challenge yourself. And when you challenge yourself, you have to develop a skill. Once you develop a skill, you are solving a problem. Once you develop that skill, the problem that you're looking to solve is based off the skill that you have developed. And it was so mind-blowing to me because people actually need the services of podcast production. It's not necessarily that you have to talk to a camera or talk with someone. It's more so everything that comes after that. Because if you really think about it, you're already having the conversations. You're already talking to people. You already are in front of a lot of people. But what if you just start to document the conversation that you're already having? What if the conversation that you're having is based off your podcast? What if you grow your brand through podcasting? Now people start to hear you more. People start to trust you more. People start to learn from you more because you're constantly showing up. When you constantly show up, the skill that you have developed helps you solve the problem that many struggle with. Hold on. That problem is how you stand out. When you solve that problem, you're solving a problem that you solve for yourself. And it took me a long time to recognize what problem I was solving. It's not the fact that challenging yourself is not important. When you challenge yourself, you're learning something new. I'm on my 7th challenge of my 90-day challenge to grow a podcast production business. I'm on day 14. And this challenge is completely different. It's different because I'm not second guessing myself. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm selling. I know how to go about selling. I know what presentation to have. And the emails on the place. Like, the only thing that's stopping me is me doing it. Like, there's nothing else that's stopping me. I took over the last half a decade, I developed the skill, learned how to sell, learned how to market, learned how to put things in place, automation in place, learn how to look at what's working and what's not working and change what's not working instead of what's working. So that way it's constantly changing and improving. As I start to do that, there's going to be a change. My goal is to actually become profitable in the podcast production business. And I can only do that by having systems in place, by having presentations in place, by having emails in place, by having text messages in place, by having communication in place, by having so many different things in place. See, challenging yourself helps you identify the challenge that you are on. When you challenge yourself, the skill that you have developed is how you do it more consistently. When I edit the video, when I put the video together, there's a format. When I have a podcast conversation, there's a format. When I do a podcast by myself, there's a format. When I reach out to people, there's a format. When people reach out to me, there's a format. You see, a format makes a difference. Hold on. I said that wrong. A format makes a difference. There we go. I didn't finish the word difference. It makes a difference because you can do it over and over and over again. You see, a format makes a difference. And what is a format? Format, I'm just gonna put in parentheses. I'm gonna actually look this one up because I like the simple definition of it. The simple definition of what did I say? What did I just say? Format. Format definition. Define. Let's see. The way in which something is arranged or set out. Okay, especially in computing, arranging, or putting it to a format. In other words, it's like coding or something like that. Let me see if they got another one. Define structure. Oh, okay. Here go one. A defined structure for the processing, storage, or display of data. When you have a format, you have a system. When you have a format, you have a way of doing business. When you have a format, you have a way of interviewing on your podcast. Hold on. When you build your brand through podcasting, you have to have a format to follow consistently. Hold on. The consistency comes from the format because the format is the same across everything. When people come on to the Phase Knowledge podcast, we have a discovery call. On the discovery call, I often got the question of, am I going to receive the questions for the interview? And I said no. Because you don't get the questions, you get the format. Every guest is different, yet the format is the same. The format is the system. The format is the steps to follow. The format is how the conversation flows. When the conversation flows the same, your podcast has improved. And that was my biggest challenge over the last half decade, was identifying the formats, was identifying the flow, was identifying how to build a brand through podcasting. It's not the fact that you're just talking. No. Talking is a part of it, but everything after you talking or everything after you stop recording is where the work actually comes in. The talking part is not the challenging part. It's not the format part. What is the challenge is you putting everything after you stop recording. It's the things that people don't see that make a difference. The things are the back end. When I was learning what the back end even consisted of, it's automation, it's emails, it's text messages, it's communication, it's uploads. It's so many different things that a lot of people don't see. Yet what the people see is that you're consistent. Hold on. What it do, Brody? What it do, man? People see that you're consistent, but they don't see your format. People see that you're consistent, but they don't see your system. People see that you're consistent, but they don't see the steps that you have put into place. When you have a format, you have a way of doing business. Your podcast production, the podcast production business that I'm working on growing, only comes from having a format based off the format that I've established for Phase Knowledge Podcast. Why is that important? That's important because the formats are the steps to follow. Hold on, let me come back. I just recognized I didn't put it. Format are steps to follow. And when you follow your steps, when you follow your steps consistently, you got a business. I'm actually going to do this one day. I haven't done it yet, but I am going to do this. One day, I'm gonna go to 5 different Walmarts, 5 different locations at 5 different times, and I'm gonna order the same exact thing. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to see if, let's just say I get a McDouble with a medium fry and honey mustard. If I get the same thing across different McDonald's, every burger should be the same, every fry should be the same, every honey mustard should taste the same, and every order should come out the same way everything else came out. The reason why I want to do this is because I want to learn their system. It's a burger and fries. How can you mess that up? It's not the fact that they're messing it up. I want to see how consistent it is across different locations. Why? There's a book called Grinding It Out. There's a movie called The Founder, and they all talk about the McDonald's franchise with Ray Kroc and how he founded McDonald's and how it went from one location to many locations across the world. In the film and movie, they talk about having steps to follow. They talk about the system and they demonstrate what the system looked like. I literally remember one part in the film where they was on the tennis court, and the previous owners like drew like a blueprint of it, and they role play on how everything was gonna go. And it was like, no, we gotta scratch this, and they started over and redesigned the format. When I redesigned the format, they literally role played to see what's working, see how much time it takes, and they demonstrated what the system looks like. See, the format is the system that works. Once it works, do not change the format, because it takes a long time to build that format together. And when you change your format, now you have to change everything. Taking it in my and from my word, I've received a lot of feedback, and I thought I had to change the format. I changed what was working so that way what's not working can work for what's working. On the contrary, what was working stopped working because I changed it. I changed the format. They didn't say don't change the format. They just said change the thing that's not working. When you have a format, the format makes you consistent. When you have a format, the format helps you follow the steps. When you have a format, you can literally have a blueprint to follow consistently. So what we just went over, first point that we went over is that you have to collect small wins on a daily basis. Next thing that we talked about is that you have to challenge yourself. The last thing that we're going to talk about, I always say this in all the different videos, but it makes sense. It literally makes sense of why I say that. Is that you have to, point number 3. Oh, no, I got some space right here. All right, point number 3 is that you have to apply the feedback. Apply the feedback. And what this means is that you can't even see that. Hold on. You can't even see that. All right, so when you apply the feedback, you are literally learning how to identify what's not working. I often get feedback a lot, and I'm talking about a lot. Whenever someone asks, hey man, I like your episode, I like your podcast, I like this, I like that, and I ask, what do you like about it? Okay, hold on. I ask, what do you like about it? And it is the thing that they just talked about, your podcast, your book, documentary, all these different things. I liked it. I asked, what did you like about it? And right underneath that, they will give feedback. It's not a sneaky way to ask. It's literally just asking, what do you like about it? What caught your attention behind it? You see, that feedback is what I can use to continue to make it work. If it's working, it can be improved, but when it's improved, it's based off the feedback that people are already doing, and like the feedback that people are already giving you. I did a podcast workshop a couple months ago. In this podcast workshop, I literally had the people who were there learning about podcasting record a 60-second video introducing themselves, what they do, and their business. They was nervous, yet they did it, and I saw the energy shift. They was excited to do it. They was nervous to do it. In addition to that, they were really excited to do it because it was something like, oh, like I really want to start a podcast, but I don't know how to. But with this video, I just learned how to. I did another podcast workshop recently. And the thing that was working in the beginning, I did not do. And the feedback that I received was literally like, hey man, you should really have us apply this information so that way we can have some win when we walk out of here. When he said that, it blew my mind. I'm like, bro, I literally did that. Like I did that a couple months ago, but and the feedback that I got, it was actually phenomenal. Nonetheless, what if I just kept doing it? What if I do keep doing that? What if it's already doing? Hold on. There's so many different challenges that I face and is not paying attention to what's working and continue to do what's working. It blew my mind. It blew my mind because it was something that I didn't recognize was working. Okay, hold on. Give feedback. When people give feedback to apply the feedback, the responses, SPONES, the responses tells you what to change or keep doing. When you apply the feedback, you have to know what to change and what not to change. My thing was I would change everything that's working. I'm like, man, at some point, this is overwhelming. It became overwhelming because I kept changing stuff. I'm like, bro, why? The formats was the same, yet the feedback made me change what the format was doing. And it taught me something. Hold on. In business, when something is working, keep doing that. It's like when you about to get a hammer. I mean, when you about to hang up a TV or something like that, you have a nail. Excuse me. If you never put a TV on the wall, you literally have to like get a nail or get a drill that drills a hole in the wall, and then you get the screw to put it in, and you put a TV on. But if you try like a skinny nail, your TV is going to fall. The TV is going to fall because that nail is not strong enough. Whereas when you have a screw that's thick enough, that's strong enough, that when it goes into the wall, it captures the grip. And once it captures the grip, the TV is not falling. Let me just draw it out. Because I'm a visual learner. So you got the TV right here. You got the wall. I just say this is called the wall. Let's just say this is the TV. And you got screws right there. Screws right there. Then you have a hammer for the screws. See, there's two problems with this format. The hammer does not hammer the screw. The screw has some grooves around it, which means that it has to be drilled in. The hammer can only hit the wall. This drill can drill the wall. Okay, the screws, if the format is different for the screws and what the tool that you use to put the TV on the wall, it won't be as strong. Okay, let me just explain what I'm getting at. When you have the format that's working, when you have the screws and you have the drill and you put a hole in the wall and then you drill the TV and now the TV on the wall and it won't fall because it's sturdy, it has the right format, it has the right tools, it has the right information. When you have the right information, the information that you have, keep doing it because it's working. When you find a way to make it work, keep making it work. And there's a book called There's a Customer Born Every Minute, and it explains that someone is going to come encounter with you who is new every single day. And when someone come encounter with you, what has worked with your previous customers, keep that same format so that way people can see your professionalism. They don't see the format has changed. They see that it's just a different location. They see it's just, they don't know it's the same problem, but the problem that they're solving, many people has this problem. In business, what I discovered, the format has to stay the same. As the format is staying the same, I only change what's not working instead of what's working. I'm actually learning how to do that instead of changing everything, because I'm like, bruh, I got to change everything. Jordan, what it do, man? I'm like, I got to change everything again. It wasn't the fact that I had to change everything. It's just that I didn't recognize what was working and to continue to do what's working. The format is what makes a difference. The format is what helps you have a business. The format is what helps you stay consistent. When you develop a skill, you're developing a format. When you develop a format, you're developing steps to follow. The more you follow the steps, the more you'll be in business. Simple as that. I was like, oh man, why I couldn't learn that in the beginning instead of changing everything? See, I literally talk about failure a lot because I'm failing myself, and the knowledge that I gained from that only came from the risk that I've taken. Risk tolerance is understanding the amount of risk that you're willing to take for yourself. I'm willing to take a lot of risks in order for me to make it right, in order for me to figure it out. As I do that, I start to figure it out. As I start to figure it out, it's like, oh, this is what I'm learning. I'm learning how to build a podcast production business. So just to recap what we just recently talked about, this was a phenomenal podcast episode, by the way. The name of the episode was Make Today Count. You have to make today count because every day that you have another opportunity to collect small wins. That was the first one we talked about, is that you have to collect small wins. And as you collect small wins, you have to learn how to challenge yourself. Every challenge that you do, I've done over 7 challenges, and the most I made in one challenge was $217. But I invested that back into the business, and I was around $10 and some change. That lesson taught me to identify what's working. So don't be afraid to challenge yourself, because when you challenge yourself, you have to apply the feedback to what's not working. My thing was I would change what's working. It's like, nah, man, just change what's not working. And that's when I'm learning how to change what's not working by applying the right feedback. And so this has been a great episode. Let me hit that follow and subscribe button. Let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway while making today count and how you gonna make today count for yourself. Love to read, love to engage with it. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge. I appreciate y'all. Click this video right here to watch more videos on how to develop within your business. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.